Okay, guys, welcome to another Sailing Doodles podcast. Back in Dallas for a few days, about to head out this weekend and do some more glamping doodle stuff. And then we're headed to the Bahamas to go sailing around on a Bali 48. So, pretty cool stuff coming up. But the topic of this podcast is basically I wanted to talk about this last year where we spent probably 4 months down in Mexico. Kind of the good and the bad. Had a really fun time there. I'm going to tell you why and how we ended up in Mexico. And then how things ended. It could have been pretty bad. It was already somewhat bad. It could have been a lot worse. So I want to kind of go through the whole timeline there and give you my thoughts on what it's like spending time down in Baja, Mexico. And if you'd like, you can actually look up Glamping Doodles. We documented almost all of this for my Glamping Doodles YouTube show, so check that out. It was a pretty good show. So I was looking for somewhere to sail to film for Sailing Doodles, and I always really wanted to go down to the Sea of Cortez and sail that. I sailed my boat down there, or the boat I delivered to Thailand. I delivered that, I believe it was the fall of 2017. We made it down there just before Christmas, I believe, and really loved the Baja Peninsula. So Baja is there's Baja and Baja Sur. I think they're like two different provinces there, or states, whatever they call them. And there's just south of California. It's the peninsula that sticks out there. So you got the Sea of Cortez, or they're calling it the Gulf of California now, whatever it's called. Separates Baja from the mainland. And generally speaking, there's a lot less crime on that side. It's a lot more set up for tourists, and there's a lot of expats that live there, and it's generally considered much safer. But it is still Mexico, so you have to deal with that. But anyway. So I wanted to go down there and sail in the Sea of Cortez, and there was a charter base there at La Paz. So I scheduled that for November, and I said, okay, since we're going down there anyway, and we've been cruising around in the RV for the past couple months, why don't we just drive the RV down there? So that's what we did. I think it was early November of last year, crossed the border at San Diego, headed south. Now, I will say, sorry, let me get a little drink here. I ended up getting a storage unit in San Diego for the main reason is there was stuff that you are not allowed to bring down into Mexico that you can carry around with you. I'm just not going to go into specifics on it because I don't want to get the video demonetized, but a weapon that uses projectiles. How about I say that? And you can understand that. So that's why I got a storage unit in San Diego to basically store that, because I could not. You're not allowed to bring that into Mexico. If you do, you're in pretty serious trouble. So what we did, and then we crossed the border from the United. So we got that, put that away, and then crossed the border from California into Mexico. And when you get on the Mexican side, you can, if you're in a car, you can just drive through. And we probably could have just drove through in the RV and been fine. But a lot of times they want you to have a temporary import permit. It's not very expensive. I believe it's a couple $100, maybe it's $500. I'm not sure. I can't remember how much it was, but it wasn't that much. And that's good for 10 years. So you can import a motorhome, a boat, anything you want down there. So a lot of people, what they do is if they say they live in San Diego, rather than keep their boat in San Diego, they'll keep their boat down in what is that? First, not Tijuana. It's the next city down, but I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, they'll keep their boat there, and it's a quarter of the price, right? So we stop and we're doing that, and then they brought a dog on the RV, and the dog searched the RV. So it's my understanding that the dogs down there, when you're coming into Mexico, they're not looking for drugs and all that. They're looking for basically weapons and people. It's they don't want smuggling weapons in for because it goes to the cartels and stuff, and then people. I don't know why necessarily, but that's my understanding. So dog came on, so I'm glad we definitely got that storage unit, because that could have been bad if they found something. And then had to do all the paperwork. It took us a little bit to get the right paperwork through, because technically my LLC owns the RV, so I had to have a letter of authorization from my LLC to myself. So I had to write a letter as myself representing the LLC to myself representing myself, so that I could get permission to drive my own RV in there. Anyway, it was long and convoluted, but we got it done. So, and then drove down, made like 4 stops down to La Paz. I will say the roads in the beginning, the first couple hundred miles are not too bad, but after that, they are sketchy. These roads are, I think my RV is like 8 feet wide or something like that. It's the standard width of a Class A diesel RV. I think it's probably the widest they allow or something in America. Well, those roads down there, and it's a 2-lane highway, so one each direction. There's no divider, and those lanes are each probably 6 inches wider than my RV, and then there's no shoulder. There is just a drop off. Like, it's not a very big drop off in most cases, but it's 5, 6, 7 inches. So if you put a wheel off that road, man, you're going off into the ditch. It's going to be a bad day. And then so the saving thing is there's not a whole lot of traffic. So especially when you get down a little more remote areas, kind of halfway down before there's no big towns anymore. After you get a couple hundred miles from the border, there's just a few small ones along the way. There's not a whole lot of traffic, but when there is an 18-wheeler coming at you on the other side, and they're at least as wide as I am, and I mean, I'm honestly surprised we didn't crack mirrors a few times. It's very tense driving down there, and it's a long way down there. It took us something like 20 hours or more of driving just to get down to La Paz. And the whole reason I wanted to go down there is because when I did take that sailboat down there, we saw a few places, like this one place called Los Frailes, where a bunch of RV people were just kind of boondocked on the beach, and it looked awesome. I was like, man, I want to do that someday. And so we made it all the way down there, uneventful. They do have these military checkpoints. They're not too. There's probably 3 or 4 of them you go through. Going down south, there's no real. They don't really stop you, don't do anything. But I'll get into that when we talk about turning around, coming back north. But I mean, even on one section when we were driving, there was a fatality, and it's just a little 2-lane road with no shoulder, so there's no way for anybody to get by. And we were probably 45 minutes from the RV park when traffic stopped at about 4 in the afternoon. And then, I mean, we were there. Traffic didn't start moving again until 11 because we were 45 minutes from that closest town, and then probably 3 hours the other way. So number one, we couldn't turn around anyway because there's no room on the highway to turn around, and it would have been 3 hours behind us, or wait and then clear it 30-40 minutes. So it took a while for all that to get cleared up, right? I mean, they had to get the police out and then the coroners and all that stuff and take care of everything. I got some drone footage that I might be overlaying here, and yeah, it was a pretty bad looking accident, but finally they got it cleared around 11 o'clock. Started driving, and then of course now we're driving on these little tiny roads at night, which is not ideal, and there's a whole bunch of traffic coming the other way because they're backed up the other way too, and it's all these 18-wheelers. It's just not a good situation. And so we get to the RV park there, and I think it's Guerrero Negro, and of course it's after midnight at this point, and so they have the RV park. They have a chain across it where you can't enter the RV park. So we just pulled over to the side of the road there and slept until dawn, and then kept on going. Anyway, I don't remember what day we exactly made it to La Paz, but there's a pretty nice little RV park there in La Paz. We left the RV there while we went sailing for 2 weeks. And then we continued on down to, originally it was going to go to Los Frailes, and then we ended up stopping at Los Barriles, which just fell in love with the place. There's an RV park right on the water. It's relatively inexpensive. I think it was $750 a month with electricity and sewer. Not every place has electricity and sewer, so you kind of got to, and then you can get a beachfront site or a waterfront site for, I don't know, probably 30-40% more, but you got to make your reservations pretty well in advance for all that. And so found Los Barriles and just fell in love with the place. We stayed there about a couple weeks. Then we went to Los Frailes for just like a week, spent 4 or 5 days boondocked on the beach, and then back to Los Barriles. And the convenient thing is it's only like an hour, maybe not even an hour to San Jose del Cabo. It's maybe a little over an hour to La Paz. You want to go to Cabo San Lucas, it's an hour and a half, hour 45. But the airport there at San Jose del Cabo is only like 45 minutes. So it was really convenient. So we left the RV and the RV park for Christmas, flew home, and then, we could have, people could come and go, fly in and out. And Los Barriles, really cool beach town, a lot of expats there, a lot of good restaurants, and just a really nice vibe. And one of the things I really liked about going down there was that it was so difficult to get down there, right? I mean, it's a long, tedious, harrowing drive to get down there, and not many people are going to do that. And so, the people you met down there were people. A lot of these people have been coming every year for years and years and years. They probably wouldn't even want me doing a podcast about it because they don't want me to ruin it for by getting a whole bunch of other people to go down there. But because it is such a long drive, it's a hard drive, and it is Mexico. It's not as safe as America and all that. So that's why it's that's why not too many. If it was easy to get down there, the place would be packed, right? And in fact, so the guy that runs the RV park there, his name is Hutch, nice guy, and he said he's never seen it that packed the year that we were there. We got there. I guess it was around Thanksgiving or so. So we got there, before it got busy. It starts getting busy there after Christmas. So we got our spot, and we were able to stay there until first week of February. And so just fell in love with the place, and I'm tempted to go back. And we'll kind of get into some of the reasons here in a minute why I may or may not go back. And, you guys leave me a comment down below in the comments or wherever you're listening to this from about what you think I should do here, or if you would go back. So anyway, we stayed through February, and then we needed to get back. We had some stuff we had to take care of in the U.S. We were going to go meet with some family and things, and so we had to leave. So we leave Los Barriles and kind of work our way up. We make 2 or 3, 4 stops on the way up. And everybody said that there's 2 roads to go down there. There's Highway 1 and Highway 5, and then they kind of meet up and become Highway 1. But everybody was saying that how much better Highway 5 is. And Highway 5 is on basically the east side of Baja, Mexico. And so we gave that a shot on the way up, which goes up to Mexicali, and then which is about 70 miles east of San Diego. And so instead of going across to Highway 1 and coming up through Tijuana. So we're doing that, and then we start, you pass through the military checkpoints on the way up, and, most of the checkpoints just kind of waved us through, asked us where we were from, where we came from, where we're going, and they just waved us through. At one checkpoint, they actually did, a military guy came on and wanted to walk through the RV, so we let him on. And he kind of starts opening cabinets, everything. He opens the refrigerator, and of course I have beer in my refrigerator. And he goes, "Oh yeah, beer." And I'm like, "Would you like one?" And he's like, "Yeah." And so he grabs one, kind of puts it in his pocket, and then starts looking through the rest of the RV. Goes back, looks in the bedroom and all that, and then goes in the bathroom and closes the door. Right, and he's in there. Not very long, like a minute maybe, and then comes out, and he had slammed the beer while he was in the bathroom and left the can in the bathroom, and he's like, "Okay, cool," or he didn't even speak English, but whatever, he was like, "Okay," and then left. So, I mean, I don't know if that was a bribe or what we were doing, but I mean, it's kind of like, okay, you're a military officer, and you're drinking a beer on duty in our RV, like, that's real great. Anyway, so we continue driving up, and oh man, it's really windy down there at that time of year, like really windy, and it was probably blowing 30 or 40 miles an hour, and it basically kind of it caught one of my slide out toppers, like the wind is, and like I guess it was not properly installed, properly tensioned, and there's supposed to be like a little arm that keeps it from billowing out. It's like an anti-billow device, right? And it didn't happen. So that slide out topper just billowed out and caught the wind as we were driving, and man, that's a little scary. You got the thing coming out down the road. What if there had been an 18-wheeler passing us when that happened, right? So and then there's no shoulder, right? So there's nowhere I can actually pull over, and so I slow way down. It kind of comes back in. Actually, no, it's on top of the RV because it totally broke it, so it's just flapping around. And I finally, after a mile or two, find a place where I can like pull off the road. And actually, I think, no, we even stopped on the road for a little while until I got up on there. Yeah, that's what I did. I got up on there, and I was able to rip it off the rest of the way. And then we drove down a couple miles to a place where we could pull over. But then that whole thing had basically ripped part of the roof off too. I don't know if it caught it or what, but it started ripping the roof off. So then, I can't continue to drive like that. So we stick the slide out topper inside the RV, and luckily I had enough tools on the RV to make some repairs. I basically got these metal L brackets and drilled through the roof into the metal frame of the RV, and I only had wood screws, but it worked. And then use these metal L brackets to kind of hold the roof of the RV down well enough until I could get a proper repair on it, which I've since done. And then so I think it was the same day, so it was already not a great day. And we pull up to Mexicali. So the roads on Highway 5, marginally better. I wouldn't say, don't go out of your way to go that way. It might be slightly better, but it's not worth an extra 2 hours of driving, in my opinion. But whatever. So then we get to Mexicali East. We're going to cross the border. And man, the drivers there were really aggressive. And they were, I've got this big RV and I'm pulling a trailer and they're just not letting us get around very easily at all. So then finally get towards the border there, and the signage is terrible. Like, they don't say, cars only or autos or trucks, or maybe I'm sure there was like a truck place, but I never saw it. And so I didn't know which lane to turn down. So I just picked the farthest lane on the left-hand side rather than one of the middle lanes. And it was the wrong lane, right? So we get about halfway down and it's getting more narrow and narrower. And we pull up to this I don't know if it's like in a little inspection place where I don't think he's a police officer. I think he just worked at whatever. And I'm like, am I in the right place? And he doesn't speak English. And my Spanish, I can't. And I'm like, I'm trying to say, is this right? Is this Mas Grande? Okay, es está bien. And he's like, yeah, he's not even, he's like, just go. And he waves me on through. I'm like, okay. So we start getting there. And then right as we get to the border, the American side is probably 6 inches narrower than the Mexican side. So we're literally on the border, and they have this pole sticking up on the side, and we don't fit. And so we stop there, and we're blocking traffic. I feel bad, right? There's all these cars behind us, and so we're sitting there talking to the American side, and then there's no Mexican on that side of the border. They were way down at the other checkpoint. So eventually, after a few minutes, I don't know, it's 5 or 10 minutes, the Mexican guys come over, and they're screaming and yelling, and they're telling Stephanie, get your effing passport, give us your passports. They're really being aggressive. And I'm like, look, there's no need. I messed up, man. There's no need to get aggressive here. We'll figure it out. Whatever we got to do. And he's like, so he took our passports, said, you go through, you come back, drive back, and then you talk to us. You're going to have to pay a penalty, and then I'll give you your passports back. And we're like, we have no choice, right? We're still in Mexico, and they're taking our passports. What are we going to do? After 20, 30 minutes, the Americans move a little stuff. It's still too narrow for us to fit through. They can't move anything more because these poles are bolted to the ground. And so I'm talking to the American guy. He's the supervisor for the American CBP, and he's like, look, man, you got no choice. You're going to scratch your RV, but you have to get through. You just have to go. And so we did, and it caused, many thousands of dollars of damage. I had insurance help cover it. It wasn't the end of the world. We get through, and then, now we don't have our passports. So we have to pull over on the American side at kind of a waiting area. And then we got to go in with the supervisor. And I guess in that situation, we ended up having our, passport cards. So nowadays when you get a passport, you can get an ID card that just has your name and your address on it. It looks like a driver's license, but it's a passport card. And so we had those. Those actually made it a lot easier, because then he's like, oh, I'll just take these. But they have the authorization. They knew we were clearly Americans, and we had driver's licenses and all that stuff. And so they were going to let us in the country no matter what. But we had that, so it made it easier. So now then we're talking to the supervisor, and we're saying, hey, you see, they took our passports, and I said, they want us to drive the RV back, and then go pay a penalty, and then then they'll let us go with our passports. And he said, no, don't do that. And in fact, when we were first walking over there, one of the other CBP guys was like, oh man, don't even, just just leave, man. Don't even worry about it. Anyway, so we start talking to the supervisor, and he was like, well, I do not drive the RV back over there. If you really, because I'm like, we have to fly in 3 weeks over to, I don't know where we were going. I think we're going to Greece, or I think we're going to Thailand or something. I'm not sure. But anyway, so we're like, oh, okay, what do we do? He's like, well, you can walk back. I'm like, oh, why don't we just do that? So we ended up, it was about a half a mile from the border. There was a truck stop. So we drove the RV to the truck stop, left it there, and walked back. Actually, I stopped at the ATM and got about $1,000 in cash at the ATM. And just in case, I had to pay whatever bribes, fines, whatever. And so then we walked back. Actually, the U.S. CBP escorts us across, so we didn't have to, we walked across. They walked us to the gate and let us through into Mexico. And then we go and find the guy that had our passports. And I guess he was their supervisor. I don't know specifically what his role there was, but he was in a uniform. And, I said, hey, man, we're here. I was very apologetic. I said, I'm sorry. It was my fault. I turned down the wrong lane. I didn't know where to go. I'm here to pay whatever penalty and get our passports so we can go. And he's like, well, where's the RV? And I said, no, we left it in America. He said, no, you have to bring the RV back. And I was like, well, I mean, if it's just a penalty, let me pay the penalty, and then we can go. And he's like, that's not how it works. You have to bring the RV back, then you pay the penalty, then we give your passports, and then you can leave. And I'm like, yeah, right. That's okay. You're full of crap, because that's not what you're going to do at all. So then we walk back across the border and, go through the same thing on the U.S. side, showing our passport cards. They let us through. And, we actually we're at the gate checking in, and the first guy, we're told him what they said. And he's like, man, just leave, write off your passports. Don't go back. That's, don't. And so then, we kind of pretty much decided that's what we're doing. And then, we asked to speak to the supervisor again of the CBP side, the American side, and I just want to confirm, that everything's copacetic and that, what he thinks of the whole situation. And he's very nice. He came out and he was like, yeah, man, don't go back, because one of two things are going to happen. They're either going to come up with, a penalty so large that it's not worth the RV, or they will try to get you in the RV, or they will get you in the RV alone, where you have to pay a bribe or have to do something, or both, or something else. They find something on your RV. Whatever. They plant, who knows? They find something, you're in trouble, they own you now. And it's like, yeah, okay. I said, so what about our passports? He said, just write them off as stolen and get new passports. And so that's what we did. We left we got in the RV and continued back to San Diego, got the RV parked there and got our stuff and kept on moving. And then actually we got I think we set it up for the next day or two. We got a passport expediter. So we went through their system, because I think we were flying to Miami for the Miami Boat Show. That's what it was. That's why we had to get back. And then after that, we were going to continue on to sailing. We had to go overseas or wherever it was. So then we actually set up a passport, expediting company, and we had the pictures taken, did all the affidavits, did all that with the passport company. It ended up being $1,500 for 2 new passports within, I believe it was a week or something like that, or 5 days, because we were traveling in like 2 weeks. And so with all the backlog of passport stuff from COVID and all that, that's just, because I've done a rush passport before, and it was like $500, but that was like 7 or 8 years ago, right? This was, I was like, $1,500 for 2 passports. So, that was honestly probably cheaper than it would have been. Who knows? 10,000, 20,000, go to jail in Mexico. I don't know. So, and so when I talked to the CBP officer, I said, what if we ever wanted to go back to Mexico or something? He's like, well, I would never cross at Mexicali again, because, if that guy recognizes you, you're in trouble. And he said that on the Mexican side, they don't really communicate. So and who knows? We didn't actually break any laws, right? So that's the thing is we don't know if there is an arrest warrant for us in Mexico. I've reached out to several lawyers to look into it. Nobody's responded. I'd like to just, we never broke any laws, right? The guy took our passports. He never fined us anything, never wrote us a citation, never accused us of breaking a law. So, we blocked the lane for 20, 30 minutes. If there's a law against that, I don't know. But, so that's the thing is I don't know. So if anybody has any information on like how to figure that out, like I've reached out to friends that have friends that are lawyers in Mexico and nobody's responded. So, I want to look into that to see if I can go back because I kind of would like to go back. I really love Baja so much. It's such a shame that the government and, is so corrupt and that there's so much crime. Because it's a beautiful place and most of the people are awesome. Like the people we met down there were all really cool and very friendly and very nice people, all the locals and everything. And it's just a shame that their country's kind of run that way. So I don't know, but it is what it is. So that is the whole Mexico story and how that happened. I was debating going back there this winter. Obviously, I would not cross in Mexicali. I'd probably just go back all the way to San Diego and then back down. I don't think I'm going to have time now after a few other things. Like with the new boat. So we're going to Thailand in November to look at that. And then it's supposed to be out of the factory in January. So I might have to go back for that. And then, we'll see. So I don't think I have enough time because that's the thing is it's such a long drive down there. It's 20 to 24 hours of driving to get down to southern Baja, and it's not pleasant driving. If it was just 24 hours of like on the interstate, sure, okay, whatever. But no, it's not pleasant driving. It's very stressful. So I don't know. So anyway, that's the story. Thank you guys for listening. If anybody has any advice on that or knows how to look into, I've Googled like how to look up, online to see if you're a warrant. And I've actually gone through their little system and couldn't find anything on myself, but who knows? So anyway, thanks guys. Please click that like and subscribe button. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can watch it on YouTube, or you can get anywhere you get your audio podcast. So thanks guys, and we'll talk to you in the next one.